masters. Good day to you, partner. I'm Guy, and I can already tell that I'll be your best friend in this forsaken cave.
Hey guys, wheatsolo here, aka the Skeleton King. So, by the way, he doesn't show his main summoning set. There's a couple things we gotta get to. First, let's talk about the map he rolled. There's fetishes. Now, trust me, fetishes are always good, even for a fire-based build, because they run quick, and they will run at you and kill themselves off. So they actually save time, probably even for fire golems. Now, there was some fire absorb on this map. I think it would slightly matter. I think there's a couple of packs that take actually more than one tick, or maybe it's just some weird kind of RNG thing going on there. For the gear, let's try and explain that real quickly. As you'll notice, he swapped and showed a 13k number and a 10k number. So he doesn't actually show his main summoning set, but that's what I just put as the images over to the side there. That's going to be that ridiculous +7 wand with 2 facets, and then of course a +5 shield with 2 facets. So we're actually missing some damage on this build. I can't remember if his Ormus is BIS, but basically he's missing 2+ skills on his shield and 1 or 2 facets. 1 skill and 1 facet, or 2 skill, no, wow, 1 skill and 1 facet, or 2 skills and no facets. God, that was really hard for me to say, I apologize. He almost dies right there. As you'll notice, he didn't actually cast Bone Armor, and that's kind of some of the dumb things about Bone Armor in this game, is that the way Blood Warp works is it'll cancel cast, so I'm sure what is happening is it's not actually frame recovery that's causing him to miss his Bone Armor cast. It's the relationship between Bone Armor cooldown and Blood Warp cooldown, and then canceling a Bone Armor cast for a Blood Warp. So, how do we make this build faster? Now, as you can see, he actually doesn't always kill every enemy in 1 tick, so that blows my mind. So first of all, this is a T1. It does have some fire absorb, trust me, that does not help, but we need lower resist. Like, that is just facts. Like, that champ, or that elite skeleton archer lived. Emilio finished him off. We got to work on that too. Don't even look. It's not Emilio. We'll get that fixed. But we need to somehow get lower resist into the build. Now, Cranky Gnome brought this up, that part of the reason he doesn't like lower resist is that there's an 11 frame cast for his warp. There's an 11 frame cast for his bone armor. That's 22 frames. Now, if fire golems tick every 25 frames, 22 frames is kind of a nice point to be at. 20 would be basically the same almost. And if we add in another cast, we don't really have the time. So, how do we make it so we can cast lower resist to kill enemies more consistently while still having time to cast Bone Armor and Blood Warp around? Well, considering Bone Armor and Blood Warp have their awful relationship, that when Blood Warp has a cooldown, Bone Armor and Blood Warp just get really upset. It's just something about Diablo 2, is that if any abilities with cooldowns are shared with other abilities with cooldowns. There was a good reason behind it, but it can have unintended consequences in PD2. So we either go with more summon skillers. Now, as you'll notice, he actually keeps 1 summon skiller because he has a very specific Blood Warp cooldown he wants to target. But as you'll notice, there are instances where he has to Blood Warp more than once, because he Blood Warped to the boss, and then he had to Blood Warp 3 times to get to another pack. This map is a 220 density. It's actually a pretty high density for a T1. They just roll lower densities. So having a 0-second Blood Warp would probably speed up this clear, I think, by probably 20 seconds. Maybe even closer to 30. So that's a must. Then we wouldn't have these issues with Bone Armor, which almost got him killed one time. And the last thing is this: if we're going to go max energy, we really don't need Phoenix. Now, yes, I know Blood Warp will still cost you a lot of life, but for a speedrun clear, we can just spam full rejuves. Or, what we can do is run Ligma. Now, I know you'll know, oh, but wheatsolo will lose fire damage. Yeah, we will. But guess what? We'll lose most of the fire damage only on one fire golem. The other 5 will be absolutely insane still. If we're going to be swapping summon skillers to charms to just go full wild out, full swap summoner, then why don't we just swap chest too? So if we swap to a Ligma, we get a 5-second blink that has a 5-second recharge. Sorry, 5 blinks stored, and then 5 seconds per recharge. By the way, I've always said Ligma sucks for summoners. Well, it's been buffed and buffed and buffed, and at this point, there's basically no reason for any class not to run Ligma if they can fit it in their build and not lose too much damage. And guess what? For this build, we won't lose too much damage. So what does that mean? We can even put in 2 more LCs. So that means some of our fire golems are even more powerful. And then the one shitty fire golem, well, he's not going to actually be that much shittier. So we get Blink, which is a 5-second cast and a better animation. We won't have any issues with bone armor anymore. Now, yes, you might go, well, wheatsolo, what about the fact that you're going to run out of Blink? Well, we'll still have enough Blood Warp to kind of weave it in to get to that point. And now, if Phoenix isn't very useful because we're actually using Blink mostly, guess what we can put on the offhand? We can put on Collins. The idea is this. If we have Collins and we have lower resist, these fire golems are going to be killing most enemies by 2 ticks. And so possibly we don't need to actually warp as much, and we can rely on Vigor and Golem faster run walk to kill a larger swath of enemies with their 25 frame Holy Fire Aura Tick. I think that's the only way we could really go faster. Well, a lot faster than what he's doing right now. This is a great run though, it really is. I just think mainly for this run, you really got to get CBF. And then on other side of it, we got a couple other directions we can go with this build. Well, Skelly King out, guys. GG.
Come and play with us. Come and play with us, Daddy.